People love the Star Wars. Some people love to hate it, especially the prequels. But pretty much everyone in this galaxy has something to say about this phenomenon. Whichever side of the Force you fall on, we're about to blow your mind with a brand new theory that's currently causing more waves on the internet than a windstorm on the planet Camino. Now, what if C-3PO, the universe's most talkative robot, was actually a spy for Darth Vader?
Oh no.
It may sound silly, as the Golden Golem is seemingly one of the most non-threatening characters in the entirety of the Star Wars canon. But if you dig deep enough into the Star Wars lore and watch the movies with a fresh set of peepers, you too may realize that Threepio might not be the droid you thought he was, along with being a droid you weren't looking for.
These aren't the droids you're looking for.
But as we kept digging deeper into this Sarlacc pit, we realized there may be some validity to this new theory after all. Before you dismiss the idea as insane, let us lay out the details as we know them so you can make your own decision. CBR is bringing you the videos you want to see with the characters you love. Don't be the last person in your social circle to learn the secrets about your favorite characters. Subscribe now. You won't be disappointed.
I feel so helpless.
Sinister Shutdown? Perhaps the first instance of C-3PO showing his sinister side began earlier than you ever realized. George Lucas had intended 3PO and R2-D2 to be central characters in the world he was creating, which explains their pivotal role in the beginning of the first Star Wars film he made, A New Hope. Princess Leia leaves valuable information with R2-D2, and along with his bipedal buddy, 3PO, they end up on Tatooine and run into a family of moisture farmers on the sand-filled planet.
Take these two over to the garage, will you? I want them cleaned up before dinner.
But I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
They meet Luke, who in turn discovers the hidden message Leia left, which leads to a crotchety old dude who explains to Luke that his destiny awaits in the stars above. While they're talking in Kenobi's modestly decorated hut, Obi-Wan pulls out what we eventually learn is his former Padawan's lightsaber. Upon seeing the weapon, C-3PO asks Luke if he can close down for a while.
Sir, if you'll not be needing me, I'll close down for a while.
Sure, go ahead.
When we'd first seen the film, it was probably safe to assume that the robot simply needed a relaxing reboot. It makes sense. When your computer is running slow, a quick restart helps it run faster. So it's safe to assume it would help a droid reset his settings or something to that effect. However, knowing what we know now, this sheds a completely different light on 3PO's actions. According to canon, C-3PO had his memory banks wiped by Leia's adoptive father, Bail Organa, when he gained control of the droid duo at the end of Revenge of the Sith.
Have the protocol droid's mind wiped.
What?
This should have erased all memory 3PO had of any events that happened prior, essentially erasing all of the information the robot knew about where he came from and who created him. Yet, upon seeing the lightsaber of his former master, he ceases operations for an apparent siesta. Besides picking the most awkward time to shut down, it's possible that C-3PO was actually fully aware of who once wielded the weapon Obi-Wan was showing to Luke. A popular theory exists whereby Organa installed a Vader protocol along with a memory wipe, and at the mere mention of Kenobi's former apprentice, this would essentially cause the close down. But to us it seems a little bit unlikely.
It seems that he is carrying a message from an Obi-Wan Kenobi. Master Annie, does that name mean anything to you?
Clone Wars Catastrophes. Long before he meets Master Luke, C-3PO knew exactly who Obi-Wan Kenobi was. During the events of Attack of the Clones, C-3PO finds himself on the planet Geonosis with R2, Anakin, and Padme Amidala, as they attempt to rescue Obi-Wan, who's been captured by Count Dooku.
Then we decided to come and rescue you.
Good job.
After landing, the team ends up in a droid factory. 3PO's lack of dexterity causes him to become trapped on the conveyor belt, building some rock'em sock'em robots. His head becomes separated from his body, and he ends up fighting against the good guys as two different robots. One with his head on a B-1 battle droid, as well as his body with the head of another droid. While he didn't cause much damage, one must question whether 3PO knew what he was doing, and secretly enjoyed taking potshots at the Jedi Council and clone troopers. He was yelling,
Die, Jedi gods! What did I say?
This is just the beginning of C-3PO's time affecting the outcome of the Clone Wars. After essentially serving as the best man at Anakin and Padme's wedding, further cementing his status of Rose before entire galaxies. The droids become an integral part of the story, as shown in the Star Wars Clone Wars animated series. The show is considered canon, and contains many adventures that find Threepio and R2 hopping across the galaxy with Anakin, playing an integral part in helping fight off the evil empire that is beginning to form.
Coming, Minister. Come along, R2.
Lowdown on Lothal. Just a few years ago, a new animated series was introduced, Star Wars Rebels. The show is considered official canon, and takes place after Episode 3 and before Episode 4, showing what was happening to characters new and old as the Galactic Empire grew. Of course, the droid duo of R2-D2 and C-3PO made their way onto the show, as they have appeared in almost every form of media within Star Wars canon or legends.
I am C-3PO, and this is my counterpart, R2-D2.
During their introduction to the show, Threepio and R2 are sent by their current master, Bail Organa, on an escort mission to the planet Gorel. They end up on Lothal, a weapon manufacturing base for the Empire. As it seemingly always happens to the talkative and clumsy droid, he ends up in the wrong place at the wrong time, and is eventually captured by Lothal rebels. While the true details of the mission were kept from Threepio, probably because of his inability to ever shut up, as soon as trouble began and he found his robotic back against the wall, his reaction was to contact Imperial authorities to come rescue him.
All I need is your location.
Sending our coordinates now.
It ends up working to the rebels' favor, however, and C-3PO manages to escape with his parts intact. But why would his instinct be to contact the bad guys who he's been working against since his memory wipe? He's been living and serving Organa, a man who has an extreme dislike of the evil empire, so he should know that Imperial equals bad, unless the part of his memories were beginning to come back.
This entire ordeal has rather stressed every one of my circuits. Permission to shut down?
Granted.
These stories exist before he meets Luke on Tatooine, and if he has even the slightest remembrance of the young boy who created him, it's possible his allegiance is in question.
Thank the Maker. This oil bath is going to feel so good.
Thank the Maker. As Luke Skywalker was helping C-3PO settle into a hot lubrication bath in A New Hope, the robot gleefully yelled, "Thank the Maker!" as he was settling into a steaming oil bath in hopes of removing some dust that had been contaminating his bolts and nuts. At the time, the line seemed a bit of a throwaway, maybe an allegory for a higher power that existed within the galaxies that George Lucas had created.
Kid, I've flown from one side of this galaxy to the other. I've seen a lot of strange stuff, but I've never seen anything to make me believe there's one all-powerful force controlling everything. There's no mystical energy field controls my destiny.
Even though 3PO's components were created on the planet Alpha over a century before his construction, The Phantom Menace makes it clear who actually put C-3PO back together again.
R2-D2, a pleasure to meet you. I am C-3PO.
In The Phantom Menace, we learn that Anakin, long before he'd showed off his affinity for an all-black wardrobe, was responsible for putting together the version of C-3PO everyone knows and loves today. At some point, his life fell to pieces, literally, and those pieces found themselves in an intergalactic junkyard on the desert planet of Tatooine. Anakin found those pieces and reconstructed the robot, modifying it to withstand the extreme heat and sand of the planet. C-3PO served the Skywalkers well, helping with chores around the house and developing a relationship with Anakin and his mother Shmi. Remember kids, if you don't want to do the dishes, build a robot to do them for you. After having run into Qui-Gon Jinn, Padme Amidala, Jar Jar Binks, and R2-D2 at Watto's shop, Anakin's life began down a different path, a much darker one. Anakin's Jedi calling leads the young lad to leave his home. Apparently, the kid had an extremely high midi-chlorian count, which sounds like he needed a space doctor more than a dude in flowing robes with a fancy flashlight as a weapon. As he leaves, he makes his mother promise not to sell his buddy that he built, the machine he made.
The Maker of Master Annie.
C-3PO will run into Anakin many more times before his heel turn, but the events on Tatooine are the building blocks of this theory. The Maker does exist in Star Wars canon. Also called the One Who Creates, the Maker is often referred to as a deity-like being that supposedly created the very first droid, changing them from machines designed to do manual labor to creations with personality. Since it seemed curious that the droids would remember the Maker, fans began speculating early on who exactly made C-3PO, since he uses the line several times throughout the original trilogy, including when Lando informs everyone that Han Solo survived the carbonite freezing process in Empire Strikes Back. At the time, most assumed Threepio was simply expressing his gratitude in Master Solo still being alive. But as more Star Wars movies, books, and video games were made, the line kept being repeated, including most recently in The Force Awakens. People began to wonder if the robot may have been thanking the ones responsible for having Solo frozen. Darth Vader. These moments are revisited in Dark Horse Comics Star Wars Tales No. 6, a short story titled Thank the Maker. The 9-page story takes place on Cloud City, telling another angle of the events on Bespin. While the story isn't considered canon, it is officially part of Star Wars Legends. The comic reveals that Darth Vader may not have let all his past go after he embraced the dark side, as he finds himself suddenly flooded by memories of his time building the droid on planet Tatooine. As seen in Empire, Threepio has found himself fallen to pieces again, and about to be melted down by the enemy. In the comic, Lord Vader asks for what's left of Threepio to be brought to him, in case his memory banks might contain valuable information. Upon seeing the droid, the Sith Lord formerly known as Anakin Skywalker had a series of flashbacks, remembering his childhood adventures with his best buddies as they find pieces that would eventually become Threepio. After this memory, Vader refuses to have the droid destroyed. The comic manages to show off Vader's soft side, including a touching panel of Vader resting his forehead against the head of Threepio. It's pretty obvious that Anakin still holds a soft spot for his former creation and compadre. It would seem safe to assume the feeling was mutual. Wow, that's more to digest than a Sarlacc pit trying to devour Boba Fett.
Surrender is a perfectly acceptable alternative in extreme circumstances. The Empire may be gracious enough.
Thank you.
Now that you've heard the evidence, what do you think? Was C-3PO a secret spy the whole time, or just a doofus droid who stumbled his way across the universe? Let us know your thoughts or theories in the comments below. If you want to be among the first to watch more videos and tear away at the very fabric of your childhood, be sure to subscribe to CBR's channel. Oh, and don't forget to like and share this video. This is going to be a topic that will be debated among Star Wars fans for quite some time. So as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.